And we are live, and this is a massive, massive welcome to the Soul Writers Lounge podcast and video series. So, what do we talk about here? Well, we talk about writing to heal and stories that heal the world. So, writing heals. Our mission, Wendy and I, is to inspire you to pick up your pen, write to heal, so that you can use your story to change the world. And we want to inspire you to inspire others and create that impact with your story. So, welcome to becoming inspired by writing to heal. So, the question is, who are we? Well, I was just about to say I'm Wendy, but I'm not. I'm Dale, and it says very clearly I'm Dale. So I'm Dale, and this is Wendy. So we're two authors, two entrepreneurs, and we are the founders of the Healing Book Project. So Wendy is a trauma mentor and the author of the best-selling book Be More Wolf, and she's recently written and produced that. And I am a Writing to Heal mentor, author of Writing to Heal, planning non-fiction book, a whole pile of journaling books that we won't talk about. And I am currently writing a book called Memoir, Write Your Healing Memoir. So what do we talk about? We talk trauma, healing, stories, and writing. So the first question I'm going to pose to Wendy, and what was it like writing this healing book? You've recently published it. Tell us your story.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was one of those people that said, I never want to write a book. I'm dyslexic, so writing is a bit challenging, a bit overwhelming. And when COVID happened, I thought, actually, I can really help a lot of people. And what's the best way for me to do that? What's the best way to give me the credibility and really own what it is that I believe in to help more people? So COVID gave me that push to start writing the book. And I have to say, it hasn't been easy, but the insight and the learning
Okay, so I think I've realized that Wendy's screen has frozen. So I'm going to talk on her behalf just for a moment, and hopefully she will come back into the room. So I know from talking to Wendy in terms of writing a healing book, she took 8 months out. And like she said, she's dyslexic, so it was quite a tough thing going, writing when you have words that get muddled up. But she's written an incredible story. Her story, honestly, it's really, really moving. And in terms of her writing her story, I know that she went back into that whole healing thing. For me, when I've actually written, I'll wait for Wendy to come back and she can tell you more about her book and her experience. But for me, I've written several healing books, but I haven't actually published my books. And the reason that I didn't do it is the first book I wrote was lots of little stories about my life and stuff that went on. And I did publish it, and I left it published for many years. And I think during COVID, those 2 years, I unpublished it because I want to do something different with it. My spine fractured in 2018, and I took 18 months off work. And I was really, really ill. I couldn't walk for a long time. And I wrote a book called Healing Osteoporosis Naturally. And writing that book helped me heal. So it was a healing book. But I realized that actually I didn't want to help. I mean, I do want to help people to heal osteoporosis, but it wasn't my purpose, my reason for being. So what I did was I used it to heal. And then the third book I wrote that was healing was called Rude Awakenings. And I wrote that right up into the period where my spine fractured. And then I obviously went off on a tangent and wrote Healing Osteoporosis Naturally. So I wrote Healing Osteoporosis Naturally. I stopped writing Rude Awakenings, and I had this sense that it wasn't the right time. And this summer, I'm going to finish writing that book. So what is it like writing it? It's massively cathartic. It really does change your life. You go through that healing process again. Lots of stuff comes up. It's not an easy process. But I guess the next question is how do you write? How do you start to write your story? Well, for me, let me just get a journal. I'm sure you've all seen journals and you know what journals are like. You start with a journal. And I know a lot of people say to me, I have no idea how to journal. And what I say is start with one word. All you have to do is write one word in your journal. And then you could continue into a 5-word mind map. And what I mean by that is you write one word, and it doesn't matter how long the word is, pick 5 letters that resonate and just write those words. And then you could write a short paragraph about those 5 words. But what you then need to do is take some time out to reflect. What you could do is plot it out with some post-it notes. And let me just add, she's back in the room. Let me just add Wendy to the studio. Hold on. Wendy, I've gone on to the bit about how do you start to write your story. So let me finish that back. I waffled a bit about writing a healing book. I'm going to come back to you in just 2 seconds. Let me finish this book. So this part of the question. So we've talked about use a journal, write one word, do the 5-word mind map, write a short paragraph, reflect often. Now, when it comes to writing your story, I'm just going to give you some quick tips. Literally, get yourself some post-it notes, write some stuff on there. That's your plot. Find a wall and put your notes up. Get your mobile phone or some other recording device and talk the story. Write it down. Write down what you hear. Now, there's a lot more to it than putting some post-it notes up, listening to it, and then writing it down. And actually, that leads me really, really nicely back into asking Wendy what it was like writing the book. Because although you've got that plot in front of you, lots of other things will come up and happen. So Wendy, now that you're back in the room, I'm just going to explain, we are both in 2 completely different countries. Wendy's in Thailand and I'm in Spain. We both live in rural communities. So sometimes that thing called the internet does some bad stuff. Wendy, over to you. What was it like writing that healing book?
Yeah, it could be hard going sometimes because, when you're writing about healing, you're talking about dealing with difficult situations that are emotionally charged, dealing with trauma that you haven't necessarily healed. So that can create a tremendous amount of internal resistance and stuckness to even wanting to get started. So you want to write, you want to do it, but then there's something within you that is playing out and just not allowing you to move into expressing your story and writing it. So yeah, it can definitely be a challenge.
See, it's interesting. When Wendy and I recently started something called the Healing Book Project, and I made this momentous decision that I was going to write a chapter. So what I've done previously, Wendy, while you were out of the room, is I talked about the three books that I've written that were healing books that I've never published, and the reasons why I didn't do that. And the Healing Book Project has forced me to come back into that space and to look at my stories. So with the Healing Book Project, I decided that I was going to write a story about healing anger, reclaiming my self-worth, using self-love to step back into my personal power. And actually what came up was those things, definitely was those things. But I went back into a different trauma, which is about healing the father wound. And I had my dad was a bad boy, everybody. He was, I still adore him, absolutely love him. He's gone to the soul place, but here on earth, his behavior was not the best. And I denied it. I denied his bullying of my mum, the fact that he closed me down. And what happened, and that's something that you said, was I went back into that trauma. And it happened 10 years and 2 days after he died. And I realized I hadn't grieved him, and I hadn't acknowledged. You talk about acknowledgement a lot. I hadn't acknowledged that. But that whole process of writing that chapter, and I've written far too much, I've got to knock the words back, means that when we do our the third project, which is writing a whole book, the book that I told you about, Rude Awakenings, I am going to write it all. And I know that stuff you just talked about, Wendy, it's all going to come up again, but I'm ready. And because I'm ready, it means that I'm gonna get lots and lots of benefits out of doing it. So Wendy, let's talk about the benefits of writing that healing book.
Oh, there are so many. I can't include them all, but there are a lot. But I think probably one of the most important ones for me is that when you're writing to heal, you don't necessarily go deep into the experience of the event that's happened, but you start to explore it. And because you're exploring it, you start to see and understand it from a different perspective. Now, if you haven't healed your past pains, your past wounds, the deep trauma it is that you've experienced, it's going to be showing up and playing out in your life, whether you like it or not, because that's how trauma works. It stops us. It unconsciously stops us from doing the things that we want to do. So it's showing up. So when you start to explore your story, you start to become conscious about the reality of what happened in the past and what's happening now for you, which means that you can drop some of the emotional energy that's attached to the experience, and you can start to form new, healthier, much more empowering beliefs around the event that's happened. So that's a really big one for me. It's that increasing your level of what we call emotional intelligence, and being able to let go of the past and move safely into the now. You're never going to forget what's happened, but you will be able to release the emotional charge. And when you write, you just move into this beautiful space of being able to see it for what it was, rather than being wrapped up in the energy and the emotion and the shit that you were, sorry, I'm swearing, but the crap it is that you went through, which is it's the hard part to get your head around if you're not creating a safe container to explore it. And a book does exactly that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me.
I mean, you're right. I mean, for me, it's been massively cathartic. It's helped me see patterns in pictures. It's helped me to heal disease, emotional. I'm going to use the same word you did, emotional crap. I mean, I often say that we've come into this world to learn lessons, go through challenges and conflicts, which gives us gifts, and we take those gifts out into the world. And like you said, that book is a beautiful container to do that. Thank you. So why is it important to write to heal? I mean, for me, writing is free. Well, it's not free because you've got to buy a journal, but it's the cheapest way that you can get any therapy is to write in here. And what I find with the whole writing to heal is I start to connect the dots and the patterns and the pictures. So when I was healing the fractured spine and I was writing in my journal, I mean, I was writing in my journal and writing this book that I'll never publish at the same time, but I connected all the dots. I got to see the emotions. I got to see my life, my fractured life, from a completely new perspective. I got to see how I could make sense of, well, why it happened and what I was going to do for the future. I got this deep sense of who I am. So all of a sudden, it was like, this is who I am. This is not who I thought I was. It was like somebody had ripped me apart, broken me into a million fractals, and the writing and that healing process brought everything back together. And I got this, I can only call it like a raised level of consciousness, a deeper sense of purpose and meaning in my life. I mean, I always feel emotional when I think about this. You know, there I am, you know, writing in my journal. I can see patterns and pictures and make sense of things. But actually, that deep clarity of why I'm here on planet Earth. I always say this, and I think it sounds very grandiose. Oh, darling, I'm here to heal the planet. But actually, from writing that first single word to where I am now has been incredible. And I think anybody who feels that they have some kind of divine destiny, soul purpose, call it what you like, reason for being on this planet, start with your journal and start that writing to heal process. And not only will you join and connect the dots of your life, you'll see what you're here to do. And I think that's incredibly powerful. So, Wendy, you know, let's talk about how we move, you know, the benefits and the reasons and what it's like to write a healing book into something that's a lot more concrete for anyone who's listening. So
I just want to flip it on its head a little bit and just talk about, you know, we can't change, and you touched on it, we can't change our behavior. We can't look after ourselves properly. We can't look after emotional and mental well-being. And we can't take responsibility for things that we can't see. When you start to write, as you start to make those connections and you see the story and you start to understand it more and you start to understand your role in it, you can then start to take responsibility for changing things in your life that you're not happy with, or the impact it is that you want to help others to make, until you hit that sweet spot. And writing to heal gives you that. People will just remain in limbo. They'll either remain dependent on somebody else to try and help them fix it, which I think actually a lot of the time actually isn't possible because they see it and you don't. But when you go through this journey and through this self-discovery, you can take responsibility for what you see. And that is ultimately what helps you to change your life and to come to terms with what's happened. So yeah, it's just that bit of, you can start to take responsibility for changing things, but the thing that helps you to take the responsibility is actually writing it out. It doesn't matter how it comes out. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what order, what you say, what you think of people, what you think of yourself. It doesn't matter.
And you know, that's really important, because I know when I was healing, I mean, I've healed lots of things, but I'll talk about the healing the fractured spine. It helped me make really important decisions, and I took ownership of my healing. So I had people on one hand saying, take the drugs, do this, whatever else. And there was me who said, actually, I'm going to make the choices about how I heal, and I'm going to do it naturally. And I'm going to I had to take time out, but I made a whole load of decisions that had I not healed my body, very likely I wouldn't be sitting here now. I wouldn't be able to walk my dogs. I wouldn't have the life that I've got. So I took a massive step in owning my life.
Yeah.
And I believe that had I not done that, I probably would be a blob of flesh on the floor, because my bones would have continued. No, I mean, seriously, I've got vivid imagination. But, you know, you think about it, I would have been a blob of flesh on the floor because my bones would have continued to crumble. But I I made really important decisions about my life. And every time, you know, I've used my journal for years. When I left a dreadful, dreadful husband and came to a new country, writing in that journal and writing to heal before the event and definitely afterwards helped me make really serious decisions. You know, writing in my journal, 1 minute I packed up the motorhome, put the dogs in, given away, well, prior to that I'd given all my possessions away, and I drove to a wrecked house in Spain. So you're right, Wendy, it is taking that absolute responsibility to make those choices and decisions. But the journal isn't a crystal ball. It can't lead you anywhere. You have to take the action. So yeah, really, really important. So
what was the question? I've forgotten. Sorry.
no, I haven't answered your next question yet. But your next question is what can people do next if they like this idea of writing to heal and writing a healing book?
Yep, brilliant. So we've created a masterclass. What we will do is we will pop the link below this video, and we will talk you through why it's important to write your story, and really to help you to focus in on finding the story that is going to be of the biggest benefit to you. So it's free to watch. You can watch it straight away. I think it's about 45 minutes long. So we'll put the link to the masterclass below, and then just click on it, sign up, and then you can get direct access to it.
Fantastic. And what I would say is, we've talked about journaling. Grab your journal. There is a little workbook. There's some exercises in there. One of them is incredibly powerful, and it's called, you know, what's my chapter? Do those exercises, make those notes, really step into the why, really get a feeling of what that masterclass gives you. So get your journal, make some notes, do the exercises, and then come back and talk to one of us. So you'll find all of that when you click on the masterclass link. So I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. I'm Dale. This is Wendy. In fact, that's Wendy. When I'm depending on which way I'm looking at the screen, I have no idea. That's what I love about these broadcasts. You've got no like. I'm looking at you one side. You're definitely somewhere else. So thank you so much, and you can find us at www.healingbookproject.com. And thank you so much for listening, and happy healing, and really getting connected to your story and knowing how you can use it and inspire other people. So bye-bye for now.